why don't developers test at the same time that they do the development work? Why can't they do that? If there are bugs, it means that the developer hasn't actually checked that it works. Can you hear the bias in the sentence already? It's the checking. Developer, if I develop my software, I tend to check that it works as I designed it. But it's on a rare occasion that comes to my mind that I need to find the things where it still doesn't work. Well, it still might break. And this is something, do you know Stephen King? Who doesn't know Stephen King? Who knows him? Yeah! Stephen King wrote an awesome book on writing. It was about his profession. Can I use your time a little bit more than an hour?
Please.
You cannot hear. Cool. This is the last thing. Stephen King wrote an awesome book on writing about his profession. He's by far one of the most successful writers in the world. So, okay, J.K. Rowling is the most successful fiction writer, I think. At the moment, his books, the Harry Potters, are like, they're like competing with Bible at the moment, I think. So Stephen King is, anyways, he's really successful and he knows about his profession. And what he explained in the book on writing, it was like his autobiography, is that when he does writing, he goes into the room, like he literally closes the door when he does the writing and creates the new story. He goes into the room and closes the door and creates the new story. And he needs to be like really focused on actually making this happen, emerging the story. And then what happens after that is that he puts the manuscript aside for a few months. And then after a few months have passed, he might take the same manuscript and start reading and fixing mistakes and errors, doing the editing work. Or he might have a professional editor to work with him. So basically Stephen King's stories are Stephen King's stories, but the actual writing is his editor's writing. So there is a different person who has done the editing, checking that there are no spelling mistakes or fact mistakes. And this is the checking part. And exploring the story, is there something inconsistent here? And that's the work of the editor. And Stephen said that if he was supposed to write the story, write the book at the same time when he does editing, no story would ever have emerged from his room. So there is no way, according to Stephen King, to do the creative work that coding is. It's writing, it's creating. How you solve this problem by the means of coding. It's creative work, and there is no way to do that creative work and the editor's work at the same time. Because that's when you try to put your focus in two places at the same time. Creative process doesn't work when you have to do like the verifying, checking process. And this is the reason why developers, I would say that developers never should be demanded to actually test their own products. Developing is an exploratory process, a hunting process in a way, because I make changes to the code, I compile it or I check if it works, I make changes and I check it if it works, and I compile and I check. And then I'm confident that this is okay for me. Now it's time for the hunting part or the test automation to go through, and I put it in the version control. It's an exploratory process of developing, but at the same time it's impossible to hunt the bugs. Same principle applies to almost every creative work that we do. And this is the reason why I always suggest that if you don't have testers in your team, and want to demand that developers do testing, I suggest that you pre-decide every week or every sprint that, hey, you be the tester guy on Thursday. You arrive at work with the tester hat on. And you be the tester guy on Friday. You don't do development on Friday, you only challenge the tasks from Jira, from our developers, or you only hunt for the bugs that you have developed. And we pre-decide that there is a testing day for every developer. And this is a good idea to cycle the roles. Do some kind of cycling, because every tester, when they walk through the same forest several times, they tend to get like used. They build habits. They get used to the problems that they see. But I'm going to conclude by just asking this one question. It's already familiar to you guys. You can't get to answer because you answered it previously. Testing is the sum, or the quality assurance is the sum total of two activities, and what are those?
Checking and hunting.
Yeah, checking and hunting. Awesome, you made it, guys. I'll give you the high five. All right.